I want to turn to the bid from tech billionaire turned climate warrior Mike Cannon-Brookes to take over energy company AGL now. Teaming up with investment firm Brookfield, Cannon-Brookes supposedly has $20 billion to play with to force AGL to dump coal sooner rather than later, certainly sooner than already announced, at significant risk to our supply and energy affordability. It comes, of course, after Origin Energy announced last week that the country's largest coal-fired power station, Uraring, will shut in 2025, 7 years earlier than scheduled. Joel Fitzgibbon is the retiring Labor member for Hunter in New South Wales, and he wrote very incisively in the Australian Financial Review today, blaming the political class for creating such a wild west of an electricity market. Joel joins me now from Cessnock. Joel, thank you for your time. Yes, Ukraine's important, but by God, I don't think there's a bigger issue in town than this energy mess we're in. So I agree with you. Why are we allowing ourselves as a country to be hostage to this king of woke? Because he mightn't have got this current bid up, but I fear he's not going to go away, is he?
No, I think that's right, Peter. It's nice to be back. What Mike Cannon-Brookes is telling the Australian community is that he's sick and tired of waiting for the energy companies to shut down their coal-fired generators. So he's going to buy them and do it for them, which is a pretty extraordinary thing to do. And it's going to be harmful on so many fronts if he's successful. First, I'm concerned about the workforce. Many people who thought they had at least 10 years still to go in their jobs, but now face much earlier forced retirement. I'm concerned about electricity prices, both for residents, households, and of course the big industrial consumers like Tomago aluminium here in my region. And on the same point, I'm worried about energy reliability. That is keeping supply both to households and to our big industrial users. And no less than the Energy Security Board and of course AGL, unsurprisingly, have made the point today that they doubt that Mike Cannon-Brookes and Brookfield, his partner, can deliver the replacement capacity in that time. That means higher prices and potentially brownouts, if not blackouts, and that should be of concern to all of us.
We know, of course, if they walk away and if, as is announced, AGL shuts earlier, Uraring goes, of course, that just moves the profits for these businesses into markets where they can get more from consumers. If there's any issues like brownouts, blackouts, power failures, that's all the government's fault. So aren't consumers worse off in this scenario? And if they are, we know they are, what can government do?
Well, there are two sets of people who will pay in a way if Mike Cannon-Brookes and Brookfield are successful. The first group are, of course, AGL shareholders. And the second group, of course, is consumers, again, both household consumers and industrial users, because, we're going, under Mike Cannon-Brookes' plan, we're going to take 8,000 megawatts out of the system. That is 30% of the NEM, like 30% of the power that goes into the national electricity market we're going to take out. And of course, that's baseload power. And Mike Cannon-Brookes wants us to believe that he can replace that capacity by 2030. Now, I don't care how many billions of dollars he's spending, Peter. That's just not physically possible. Like everyone else, you'll have to go through regulatory approvals, for example. And too many of your viewers know how difficult that is. You just can't build Rome in a day. I was concerned enough about AGL's timeline and whether they could hit the mark. And, I've been in long-term discussion with them, helping wherever I can in the hope of making sure that they do, and of course, making sure they do as much of it as is possible in the Hunter region, because we've become accustomed to being the powerhouse of New South Wales. Now, Mike Cannon-Brookes comes along with Brookfield and says, I can do it much more quickly than that. But be aware of this, Peter. He wants to make money too. This is not just about his environmental credentials. And of course, I've no doubt that Brookfield have signed up with him in a form of greenwashing because he brings these green credentials. The fact is that Brookfield can make more money on these assets than can AGL without getting too technical, because they're not beholden to woke fund managers in the way AGL is. And I won't go through the complexities of that, but it's clear that they think Brookfield thinks it can make some money. They've signed up Mike Cannon-Brookes because he's a well-known environmentalist and climate change campaigner, and it makes it look good.